Well, the day has finally come. Crimson Desert, game everybody's been looking forward to, one of the most anticipated games of the year, is finally releasing, and there are some reviews out. Currently, right now on Metacritic, it is sitting at a 78, considered generally favorable. Now, I should tell you that this is for PC only. There are currently no console reviews, only PC. As of right now, on PC, there are a total of 94 critic reviews. No user reviews yet. It's too early. Out of all the reviews, there are currently only 1% in the negatives. In fact, there's only one review that's negative. There are 25% in the mixed review, and then 74% are positive. So let's go ahead and get this review roundup underway. First, we have GameLiner with a perfect 10. Says, Pearl Abyss delivers a dynamic and visually stunning open world that feels alive and full of discovery. There's plenty to do, and the game expects you to explore on your own. With challenging puzzles, memorable bosses, and little hand-holding, the many systems and mechanics can take time to master, but are very rewarding. While the story takes a back seat and is told through lore, it is still a tale you don't want to miss. Strong performance and a great soundtrack to round out this must-play experience. So we have some really high praise there from GameLiner with the perfect 10. Next up is Vice with a perfect 10 as well. If you are someone who wants a more linear or cinematic, story-driven campaign, Crimson Desert might not be for you. However, if you loved the sense of freedom and discovery that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild had, then Crimson Desert is the next big game in that genre. Pearl Abyss has truly created something special here that I suspect we'll be talking about for years to come. Okay, so I want to go ahead and talk about this one here. Okay, so I've been hearing a lot of these reviewers saying that basically, like they said here, like Vice said here, it's not very good in the story element, and that some people are giving it lower scores because of that. They said that characters aren't memorable and the story isn't good, kind of thing. Some people say the combat is really good. Some people say the combat's too weird, or like it just isn't good at all. So there are definitely some mixed reviews in here, but there are more positives than negatives. So let's go ahead and move on. Looking at more of the 9 out of 10 range, we have MMORPG.com. Yet as I sit here writing this review, I can't help but be awed by what Pearl Abyss has built. It is a game that will push forward open world design, much like the games it was inspired by did in their day. Its combat will be the benchmark for many players moving forward, and the visuals are among the best on PC to date. Full stop, I can confidently say that Crimson Desert is a modern masterpiece despite its shortcomings. Okay, so MMORPG.com talks about its shortcomings, despite its shortcomings. When I went to the full review to check this out, and it looks like they were mostly negative about mostly the combat. There are 3 cons for the game were interaction window is way too small, no real storage solution, combat can be overwhelming at times. So a lot of it was in those 3 things there. We'll talk about combat. They said that sometimes enemies were really tough to defeat, and if you remember in the first review, they did talk about how the game doesn't give you any hand holding. They talk a bit about that in their review. Here in the full one, they say it's not always clear how some enemies should be handled. Yes, you have a lot of skills that can help you fight a lot of enemies, but you have to be really good at the game and not panic and stuff like that. Basically, I think it's a fair judgment. They still give it a 9 out of 10 despite all that. So I think it's a fair judgment. For me, I prefer it this way. I prefer the game not to hold my hand and instead try to figure things out. It's a really good way for people to interact online, to be like, hey, how do I do this, a lot of communication, things like Reddit and stuff like that. Good for that type of thing. Maybe not so good for reviewers. Another one, this one comes from Level Up, gave it a 9 out of 10. Crimson Desert is one of the most ambitious games in a long time. It's expansive and deeply detailed fantasy world that constantly invites exploration and rewards curiosity. Its fluid, skill-based combat and sheer scale are genuinely impressive, but that same ambition often works against it. A lack of focus, overly complex systems, and a slow, demanding progression can make the experience feel overwhelming and at times exhausting. It's a game of extremes, deeply immersive and rewarding for those willing to invest time, but far from accessible for everyone. Okay, so I guess they're saying that because, if you're just the average person, right, maybe you don't have time to learn a game. If it is truly that difficult, obviously I haven't played it, I don't know. But if it is truly that difficult, I can understand like just not having the time, right? If you're working like a 9 to 5, like I am, you kind of have to pick and choose which games you're going to play. If you know you're going to play a really challenging game, like if let's say like another From Software game comes out, I know I'm gonna have to dedicate time for specifically that game because I work a 9 to 5. I had to make that decision. You know, it's the same thing if you're playing like a 80+ hour JRPG or something. So I can understand that as a negative, but I don't know. I don't think I would personally put that as a negative because it's like I get that it's not accessible to you, but like, is that really a flaw? If it was like just if it was a difficult game because of like poor controls or like it's unfair or something, then I'd say yeah. But I don't agree on giving a game a negative because it's not as accessible. Not every game is for every person. Let's head over to like the 8 range. So like Destructoid gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Crimson Desert features a fantastic, content-rich open world where player freedom is the number one priority. There's so much to do and so many places to go that it's easy to get lost among its ancient ruins, mythical forest, and snowy mountains. A lack of polish breeds frustration, but nothing can shake up the firm foundations of this incredible title. So pretty good praise there. It's an 8.5. I love games that I can get like lost in. So to me, this is sounding great. Not much to say there. Games Radar gave it an 8 out of 10. Crimson Desert is messy, but as you untangle its mechanics and compensate for its flaws, elements of genius and wonder make the experience worthwhile. Take time to leave the beaten path and find out which of its many facets appeals to you, and you'll discover a game that's far better as a sandbox than as a story. And that's kind of like what I expected from this game. I wasn't expecting a truly good story. Sounds like a sandbox you're going to drop me in. I'm going to do a bunch of fun stuff. Game Rant gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. Crimson Desert will likely appeal most to players who enjoy getting lost in an incredibly detailed and realistic open world and figuring things out for themselves. Even when the game isn't always clear about how everything works, those who value exploration and long-form progression will find plenty to dig into, especially if they don't mind learning it all through a fair amount of trial and error. On the other hand, players who prefer a more streamlined experience, a stronger narrative focus, or systems that clearly communicate their rules may find the journey more frustrating than rewarding. Even though Crimson Desert initially seemed like a game for everyone, it's not, but it is one that everyone should at least try. That's pretty good praise considering it's an 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10 is still a good score. This seems like a game that you're going to like just be playing for a long time because there's so much to explore, right? You're going to be playing this game and then you're going to be playing it when you're bored or like, oh, maybe like a couple months in, I still haven't beat it, but it's not really a game you're rushing to beat. It's just a game you play for fun until you're tired of it. You might be playing it all year. Let's drop down to the 7s. GameSpot gives it a 7 out of 10. Crimson Desert is a frequently thrilling game, elevated by an open world well worth exploring, and hard-hitting combat that delights with its depth and emphasis on player expression. It might not always be the most cohesive game, mixing high fantasy with steampunk and sci-fi elements, but there's nothing else quite like it, and I can't help but be impressed by how little restraint Pearlburst has shown in its commitment to delightful absurdity. In some respects, Crimson Desert might not be too good to be true, but it's a world worth getting lost in. I mean, that's pretty high praise considering this is a 7 out of 10. It seems like it should have been reviewed higher there, but maybe if I check out the full review, I'll get a little more information. Okay, I looked at the full review. It looks like the side quests are like very much not great. Like, don't expect like the Witcher level of side quest. I wasn't really anyway. I would say that it's pretty fair what he said in the full review. Okay, for fun, I pulled up a 4.5 out of 10 review. It says Crimson Desert draws attention for its ambitious open world adventure proposal, but the experience ultimately falls short of expectations. The game features a confusing narrative with uninteresting characters and missions that feel like generic MMO tasks. The combat has many mechanics but little depth, with artificial difficulty spikes and unresponsive controls. Even with impressive graphics and high degree of exploration, freedom, issues with art direction, bugs, and design decisions make the game feel vast in content but shallow in quality. This is the only score at the time of me recording this that is this low. Everything is much higher than that. There are a couple that are like in the 5s, but not many. There's more positive for this game than there are negatives. And there are a bunch of them that say to be determined because they haven't completed the game or I guess haven't gotten far enough for them to believe they need to review the game. I'm very curious to see what the reviews will be like when they hit consoles. I wonder how the performance for PS5 and Xbox will be. I personally will not be picking it up at launch because I already have plenty of other games to play or that I'm still playing, so I'm just going to wait on it. But I can't wait to see like what the discussion about this game will be now that the game is released. I want to see some user reviews, not just critics. I want to see some user reviews to see what the people are saying. I'll be checking out the Reddits and stuff like that, so I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody thinks about the game. Let me know what you think about the game so far. Have you been keeping up with all the news and stuff about it? Have you played the game already by the time you've watched this? Are you picking it up day one? Are you going to wait on it? I don't know. It seems this is probably the most interesting game release, because we don't know, like, is this going to be like a game of the year contender? Could be in the discussion because it's just like a big old sandbox you can go play around in. I wasn't expecting a good quest from a game like this, honestly, so I'm not really too surprised to hear that. But sometimes you just need it goes. I want to see those user reviews. I want to see what people are saying on Reddit, Twitter, wherever. Thank you for watching the video. Like, subscribe if you want to support. Let me know what you think about the game. Thank you. Bye.